Hello again, welcome back to Football Spy Online, and all you Portsmouth fans, the waiting is over. You can join the race for players in this transfer window now that Dr. Suleiman Al Fahim has completed his takeover. The Sun say today that new boss Paul Hart will kick things off with a move for the Reading midfielder Stephen Hunt. He'd cost around £3.5 million. Everton like him though, so too do Sunderland and Fulham. Somehow I don't think it will be as easy as Portsmouth think. Just on Portsmouth though, some detail not in the papers today. We spoke to a couple of people down at the club last night and they reckon Spurs are indeed likely to sign Peter Crouch, although they haven't actually made an offer for him yet. But what helps Harry Redknapp is that Sunderland have taken their £12 million offer off the table after Crouch asked for around 90 grand a week in wages. It basically means that Spurs can try and negotiate a lower deal, although Pompey are adamant they won't let Crouch go on the cheap. Elsewhere, the John Terry situation looks like coming to a head. The Times say that he's reached agreement in principle to stay at Chelsea as captain, but the Mail say that the Arabs at Man City will make one last huge attempt to entice him away with wages of £1 million a month. Whatever happens there, Terry should have one big smile on his face come the new season. And I've got to tell you, there's no connection between that story and this one in the Times. Sir Alex Ferguson insisting here that he's not interested in signing, in his words, mercenaries, which is why he hasn't spent big yet on the likes of Eto'o. It would be a bit cheeky if he was using that term to describe Tevez, because Tevez did more than enough in helping United to win the last 2 Premier League titles. Anyway, the Express say that Fergie could yet re-enter the market for a heavyweight signing, as he's still got a £60 million war chest. United fans, who do you think he should sign? Time for your messages, and we set up a caption competition asking you to tell us what you think Sven-Göran Eriksson is saying in this picture. We've had loads and loads of entries. I can't read some of them out, as particularly Old Roots entry, which is a bit too rude. But Sean Gray is saying, thinks Sven is saying, thank goodness for Viagra. The King, however, so far is Scratch 10. Let's just take another look at the picture. Scratch 10 thinks Sven is saying, I've had my knockers, but never this many. Absolute genius. Nick, my mate in St. Kitts, didn't like the shortened spy yesterday. He says here, I hope the new improved 4-minute episode's not a long-term trend. I feel cheated and hard done by. Let's get back to the 8-minute episodes. Well, the only trouble, Nick, is that the longer the episode, the longer it takes for us to put it up on YouTube. Do you agree with Nick, or do you think 4 minutes is long enough? Time for Shame the Player. Well, actually, it's not Shame the Player today, it's Shame the Fans. Bad Half wants to shame the LA Galaxy fans who gave David Beckham some stick the other day. He says here, why do Americans not want to have soccer mean anything in their country? Bad Half thinks Americans don't understand the game, which is why they're trying to run one of the best midfielders in the world out of the country. Lame, he calls it. Well, to be fair, Beckham has been making eyes at AC Milan, Chelsea, Spurs and anyone else in Europe capable of helping him to get to the World Cup with some regular first team football of a decent standard. You can't expect the Galaxy fans to be happy with that. Personally, I think Beckham's delighted that the Galaxy fans have turned against him, because he can use it as an excuse to leave for the Premier League and say, well, they drove me out. Anyway, let me know what you think. Now, yesterday, when he was explaining how Samir Nasri broke his leg, Arsene Wenger said this: the options are Thomas Rosicky, who's back, and in 2 months, Eduardo will be back. Now, we at Spy took that to mean that from this point, it would be 2 months before Eduardo plays again, which would give Arsenal real problems up front with just Van Persie and Bentner to start the season. So we got in touch with Arsenal, and they insisted that was not the case. They say that there's been some confusion over what Wenger said, and that Eduardo should and could return for the Emirates Cup friendly tournament next week. So fingers crossed for that, but we'll wait and see. What it does do is make this story in the Express even more interesting. They say that Marouane Chamakh, the Bordeaux striker that Wenger likes, the striker that everyone thinks Wenger should buy, is ready to sign for Sunderland because he wants to play in the Premier League, but Wenger hasn't yet bid for him. Now, that would be a great loss for Arsenal fans, as yet another target would slip through your fingers. Spurs, Blackburn and Fulham are all very interested, although we hear Fulham keeping a very close eye on the Crouch situation. Before we leave Arsenal, we like Ashley Cole very much here on Spire, but I fear he might not have endeared himself to the Gunners fans by saying today that he hopes Man City edge Arsenal out of the top four. He says in all the papers today, I've got friends at City and I hope they do really well and that they finish above Arsenal. Good luck when Chelsea visit the Emirates Stadium next season, Ashley. Now, as you know, every summer on Spire we have a saga. This year, it's turning out to be the competition to win the Total 90 Shoot 2 boots. How on earth could I have known that the one player I picked to be the subject of the competition would be the one player whose club would absolutely dig their heels in over selling? Anyway, let's be positive and believe it's going to happen, even though I know lots of you don't think it will. Elliot Draper thinks Frank Ribery will leave Bayern Munich for £74 million. Blessing Samuel in Sheffield thinks he'll go for £54 million. And JTN thinks he'll go for 65. Let me know how much you think he'll go for. You know how to get in touch. More papers for you, and in our own Daily Mirror, Ida Gudjonsson could yet be on his way to West Ham. The Hammers look set to pull out of the race to sign him a few weeks ago because of his wage demands, but now it looks as though they might be willing to compromise. The Mail say that Steve Bruce at Sunderland's going all out to get Darren Bent after losing Peter Crouch. Rafa Benitez liked the look of Sylvain Distin at Portsmouth before Martin Skrtel got injured playing in a pre-season friendly last night. Now he needs the Fratton Park defender. The trouble is, Pompey are determined to keep Distin and Aston Villa want him too. We hear Harry Redknapp at Spurs is also a big admirer of Distin, so that one's got quite a long way to go. And I still can't stop scratching my head over that proposed swap deal between Barcelona and Inter Milan, which will see Ibrahimovic go to Barca and Eto'o, Hleb and £39 million going to Inter. I think that would be the worst bit of transfer business I have ever seen. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if there's been a worse bit of business. And in the meantime, digest this. The young Sheffield United defenders Kyle Norton and Kyle Walker, undoubtedly good players, but are they worth £11 million? Because that's what Spurs have paid for them. Only time is going to tell if they're worth it. I'm saying nothing until tomorrow, that is, when I'll be back with some more Spy. I'll see you then.